My name is Evelyn Harper, and for years I believed my life belonged in a glossy novel. At 39, I was a best-selling writer living above the city, married to Daniel, a private wealth advisor whose voice could calm me instantly. When he said my name, it lingered, gentle and reassuring, like nothing bad could reach us. Our mornings followed the same rhythm: warm coffee, quiet smiles, his hand on my shoulder. Nights ended with whispered promises and the belief that I was safe. I trusted that feeling completely. Until one night unraveled everything. It was just past midnight when I woke to silence beside me. The bed was cold. I assumed Daniel had stepped out briefly. I turned over, ready to sleep again. Then I heard him speaking. His voice, not soft, controlled, careful. It drifted from his office down the hall. "She has no idea yet," he said. My chest tightened as I stopped breathing. Seconds passed before he spoke again. "Everything is lining up. Just a little longer." I moved closer to the door, pressing against the wall as light spilled through the crack. I could not hear every word. I did not need to. I slipped back under the covers, forcing my body to stay calm when Daniel returned a few minutes later. He settled beside me with the same rehearsed ease, tugging the blanket close as if nothing had happened, as if my reality hadn't just cracked open. I did not sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, counting breaths, replaying every sound I had heard. I didn't know the details of his plan, but I knew this much. My husband was hiding something, and I was part of it. Morning came quietly. I moved through the kitchen like a shadow while Daniel slept, his breathing steady, almost peaceful. The coffee machine hummed as my hands shook around my phone. Until then, I had never questioned our money. Daniel managed it all. Accounts, investments, long-term planning. I trusted him completely. I believed trust was loyalty. I was wrong. Trust, I was realizing, could also be blindness. I opened our banking app. The screen loaded slowly, stretching my nerves thin. Then the numbers appeared. Withdrawal after withdrawal. Small amounts, repeated, methodical, spread out just enough to look harmless. My stomach tightened as the pattern became clear. Whatever Daniel was preparing, it started. The numbers stared back at me. 500 here, 1,000 there, 750, 2,000. Small amounts spaced out, harmless looking at first glance, but patterns tell stories. My fingers tightened around the kitchen counter as the meaning settled in. This was not careless spending. It was preparation. Then I heard him. "Looking at the account already?" Daniel said. I turned slowly. He stood in the doorway, relaxed, sleeves rolled, the picture of ease. His voice was casual, but his eyes paused for half a second too long. "I couldn't sleep," I said. "Some of these withdrawals don't look familiar." He crossed the room, poured coffee, smiled. "Minor reallocations, short-term moves. I must have forgotten to mention them." He didn't meet my eyes. Something inside me cooled. Not anger, not fear. Awareness. I nodded, pretending acceptance, while my attention sharpened. I watched how often he checked his phone, how every call required privacy, how his reassurances came faster than my questions. That night, the phone never left his hand, screen down, silent. When I asked what he was working on, he smiled softly. "Just business, nothing you need to worry about." But I worried. 2 evenings later, routine cracked open. Dinner ended quietly. Daniel kissed my cheek and said he was going to shower. Normally, his phone followed him everywhere. This time, it stayed on the table. I stared at it, heart thudding. 30 seconds passed, then 60. The shower started upstairs.
The screen lit instantly. Most messages were ordinary, calendars, numbers. Then one thread stopped me. No name, only a number. The latest message read, "Send the Ardent files. She still doesn't know. Almost finished." My breath caught. I read it again. Still doesn't know. Almost finished. My hands trembled as I locked the phone and placed it back exactly where it had been. In the kitchen, cold water ran over my wrists as I tried to steady my breathing. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't a mistake. This was a plan, and somehow I was at the center of it. Later, Daniel slipped into bed and kissed my forehead, gentle as always. "You okay?" he asked. "Just tired," I said. I stared at the ceiling long after his breathing slowed. He believed I was unaware. That belief gave me time, and time, I realized, was the most dangerous thing I now possessed. The following days demanded restraint. I moved carefully, preserving normalcy. I answered questions lightly. Inside, I observed everything. Receipts disappeared from drawers, documents were reorganized, a folder I didn't recognize appeared in his briefcase, excuses became smoother. I began copying statements, photographing screens, and saving emails under names. I told myself this was caution, not paranoia. Every discovery confirmed otherwise. Accounts I didn't recognize, a legal consultation billed under a shell company, insurance policies adjusted without discussion. One afternoon, while Daniel showered, I opened the hall cabinet and found our passports missing. Panic flared, then settled into resolve. Whatever he was preparing, it required my absence or my consent. Neither would come freely. That night, I made a decision. I would stop waiting for explanations. I would gather truth. I would let him believe his illusion held, because the moment he realized I was watching, everything would accelerate, and I needed time, quietly waiting.
The next morning, I created a version of myself he expected to see. Calm, slightly distracted, trusting. I kissed his cheek before he left, asked about his meetings, listened as if nothing had shifted. Inside, I counted minutes. The moment the door closed, I moved. I started with the office. Daniel kept it meticulously clean, but order can hide urgency. I checked drawers I had never touched before. Most were empty. One was locked. I photographed it anyway. Then I turned to the computer. His password was unchanged, my birthday. That alone felt calculated. Files opened in neat rows, financial models, forecasts, legal drafts. One folder stood out, Ardent Holdings, the same name from the message. Inside were documents dated months back, transfers, asset movement plans, a timeline. My name appeared more than once, not as a partner, as a variable. I felt oddly steady as I read. Shock had burned off overnight, leaving focus behind. According to the documents, certain assets were being repositioned, liquidated, shielded. The final step required a signature, mine or my legal absence. Either worked. I closed the folder and logged out carefully, wiping recent access. My reflection in the dark screen looked unfamiliar, sharper, older. That afternoon, I called my publisher and asked for an advance meeting. I needed access to my own accounts. I needed paper trails in my control. I didn't explain why. I didn't have to. Daniel returned that evening cheerful, relaxed. He spoke about markets and volatility, about opportunities. He cooked dinner, poured wine, laughed at a joke I didn't make. Watching him felt surreal, like studying a stranger who knew my habits too well. Later, as we cleaned up, he mentioned travel. "I might need to go to Zurich next month," he said casually, "just for a few days." "Will I come?" I asked. "Probably not necessary," he replied quickly, then softened it. "I don't want to disrupt your work."
That confirmed it. Over the next week, I expanded my circle quietly. A lawyer recommended by a friend, a separate bank account under my name only, copies of tax records. Everything was done discreetly. I became fluent in silence. Daniel noticed nothing, or pretended not to. He continued his routines, his reassurances. He spoke about our future with practiced warmth, a house upgrade, early retirement, language designed to anchor me. One night, he received a call late. He stepped into the hallway, voice low. I heard only fragments. Yes, almost ready, no complications. When he returned, he smiled. Just work. I nodded. That night, I dreamed of water rising slowly in a room while clocks kept ticking. No alarms, just time moving forward. The final piece arrived unexpectedly. A courier envelope addressed to Daniel, delivered early. I signed for it without hesitation. Inside were revised documents, power of attorney forms, my name printed neatly, the line for my signature blank. I replaced the papers carefully, resealed the envelope, and waited. Because now I understood. This wasn't about betrayal in the emotional sense. This was strategy, control, exit. And the man I shared a bed with believed I was still asleep inside it. He was wrong.
I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed leverage, not answers. Answers were useless without protection. The following morning, I took a sick day. Daniel didn't question it. He kissed my forehead, told me to rest, and left with the confidence of someone who believes the board is already won. The door clicked shut. I exhaled. By noon, I was sitting across from Mira Collins, a private forensic accountant with a reputation for quiet efficiency. She didn't waste time with sympathy. She listened, took notes, and asked sharp questions that sliced through emotion. Account names, dates, jurisdictions. I gave her everything I had. "This isn't sloppy," she said finally. "It's layered. Someone planned this months in advance." "Can it be stopped?" I asked. She met my eyes. "Yes, but only if we move faster than he does." That afternoon, we traced transfers linked to shell entities, some dormant, some newly activated, all designed to funnel value away without triggering alarms. Daniel wasn't stealing recklessly. He was repositioning, preparing for a clean exit that would leave me legally exposed and financially hollow. By evening, I had signed engagement letters and initiated asset freezes on accounts solely in my name. Emergency measures, temporary but effective. Every click felt like reclaiming oxygen. Daniel came home late. His energy was different, tighter. He asked how I was feeling, if I'd rested. I said yes. He studied me a second too long, then smiled. "You seem calmer," he said. "I am," I replied honestly. That night, he tried to initiate intimacy. I deflected gently, citing a headache. He accepted it, but I felt the shift. Not anger, calculation. 2 days later, the pressure began. A bank called to confirm unusual activity. A former colleague emailed with vague concern. Even my sister asked if everything was okay, mentioning a strange conversation Daniel had initiated with her about contingency planning. He was testing the perimeter. Mira worked relentlessly. She uncovered inconsistencies in timestamps, overlapping authority claims, and a digital trail leading to an offshore administrator Daniel had denied knowing. Every discovery strengthened my position and narrowed his. On the fourth night, Daniel finally made his move. He sat me down at the dining table, hands folded, voice rehearsed. "I've been offered a restructuring opportunity, but it requires some temporary consolidation. I'll need you to sign a few documents. Just formalities." I looked at the folder. White, heavy. "Tonight?" I asked. He nodded. Timing matters. I opened it slowly. Power of attorney,
asset consolidation, emergency authority. Everything Mira had warned me about, laid out cleanly. I closed it. I won't be signing this. The silence stretched. Daniel's expression didn't break, but something behind his eyes hardened. You don't trust me? I met his gaze. Not with this. He leaned back, exhaling through his nose. You're overthinking. No, I'm thinking clearly. His voice dropped. If you don't sign, things could get complicated. I stood. They already are. That was the moment the masks came off. No shouting, no dramatics, just cold assessment on both sides. He realized I wasn't bluffing. I realized he would escalate. As I walked away from the table, one truth settled firmly in my chest. This wasn't a marriage unraveling. It was a standoff. And I was done being unarmed.
Daniel didn't leave that night. He slept beside me, breathing evenly, as if nothing had changed. But the air between us felt armed, every movement deliberate, every silence loaded. The next morning, the fallout began. My phone lit up before 8. Legal notifications, compliance alerts, a calendar invite titled Urgent Review from Daniel's firm sent to my personal email. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was forcing proximity, trying to pull me into a space where he had control. Mira called minutes later. He's accelerating, she said. I expected this. What's the damage? I asked. Minimal, for now, but he's filed preliminary disclosures claiming shared operational authority. It's weak but noisy. Noisy was dangerous. Noise attracts scrutiny, and scrutiny doesn't care who's right, only who survives it. By noon, a rumor had reached my publisher. By evening, a board member from a nonprofit I supported requested clarification about my financial stability. Daniel wasn't attacking me directly. He was eroding the ground beneath my feet. That night, I didn't wait for him to speak. I know what you're doing, I said, calm, steady. He looked up from his laptop. Doing? Creating doubt, I continued. So I panic, so you sign, so you win. He closed the screen slowly. You're framing this like a war. I said, it is. You just assumed I wouldn't notice. His mouth tightened. You're making a mistake. No, I said, I'm correcting one. The next day, Mira brought in legal reinforcement, not aggressive, surgical. We issued formal notices, locked jurisdictions, and documented every attempt at indirect influence. Paper trails became shields. Silence became strategy. Then came the lawsuit. Daniel filed for declaratory relief, claiming misrepresentation and fiduciary breach. It was thin but designed to force discovery, to drain time, energy, focus. I didn't flinch. In the conference room, surrounded by professionals who believed evidence still mattered, something inside me steadied. For the first time since that night I heard his voice through the wall, I wasn't reacting, I was choosing. Weeks passed. The narrative shifted. Mira's team dismantled Daniel's claims, with timestamps and third-party verification. The offshore administrator he denied knowing resurfaced in archived correspondence. Not mine, his, signed, logged, inescapable. The pressure turned inward. Daniel stopped pretending at home. He grew clipped, impatient. Once he snapped when I moved a file from the desk. Another time he accused me of sabotaging him socially. I listened, I documented, I disengaged. The final blow came quietly. His firm placed him on administrative leave pending internal review. No press release, no drama, just an email he didn't show me but didn't need to.
I saw it in the way he stared at nothing that evening, the way control slipped from his posture. A week later, his attorney requested mediation. I agreed. Not to reconcile, not to compromise, to conclude. Across the table, Daniel avoided my eyes. The mediator spoke. Numbers were exchanged, conditions outlined. I accepted nothing I hadn't already secured. When it ended, I stood first. "This didn't have to be this way," Daniel muttered. I looked at him then, really looked. "It did," I said, "because you thought I wouldn't survive knowing the truth." I walked out alone. The apartment felt different that night, quieter, larger, mine. I didn't feel victorious, I felt intact, and that was enough.
6 weeks later, the case reached its end. The courtroom was quiet, almost reverent. Mira sat beside me, composed, precise, her notes perfectly aligned. I wore charcoal bray, spine straight, breath measured. Across the aisle, Daniel looked smaller than I remembered, restless, strained, already defeated by the weight of his own choices. The judge spoke slowly, methodically, dismantling every claim. Evidence stood where emotion failed. The offshore filings collapsed under scrutiny. The accusations dissolved. When the ruling came, I didn't smile. I simply nodded, acknowledging an ending that could not be appealed. Daniel lost access to every protected asset. His allegations were dismissed in full, and the court ordered him to cover costs he never expected to pay. Outside the courtroom, he called my name. I stopped, but I didn't turn. "You could have handled this differently," he said, almost pleading. I finally faced him. "So could you." Then I left. The weeks afterward were quiet in a way that felt earned. I returned to my work. I cooked for myself. I slept without listening for footsteps or half-truths. The city felt open again. Not kinder, just honest. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt grounded. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It settles in when the danger passes and your body finally believes it. This experience taught me something I will never forget. Love should never require blindness. Trust should never cost your autonomy. Protect what you build. Ask questions. Read the fine print, even when it's written by someone you love. If this story reached you, sit with it. Share it if you need to. Speak up if it mirrors your own silence. Strength isn't revenge. It's clarity. It's choosing yourself before you're forced to. And it's knowing that when the storm ends, you still get to decide where you stand beneath the sky. That choice, once claimed, changes everything and belongs to you alone forever afterward.